Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the Your Way podcast. This week, I want to lift the lid on what it actually looks like to hack your time, to manifest, to make time work for you. And this is such an important conversation because time is arguably the most, or at least one of the most precious commodities we will ever have at our disposal. And yet it is also the thing that we often feel that we don't have any control over and we don't have enough of. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you through the actual steps required that allow you to manage your time, create what you want in the time you have, and also feel like you've got this more expansive and like spacious relationship with time. And the reason that I'm doing this is because you'll have heard me talk lots about like my mission and where I'm being pulled and where I'm being drawn to. But what's become super clear in the last few weeks is I have an awful lot of tools and skills that allow people to feel better in themselves, manage their time better, and work with their nervous systems. And I am committed to getting that information in as many hands as possible, because when you feel safe in your body, when your nervous system is working for you, not against you, remembering that your nervous system is always trying to keep you safe and alive, but if it is perceiving threats that no longer exist, it can cause some challenges. When you've worked through that stuff, and when you're able then to function in life in the way that you are designed to and feel safe to be all of who you are and speak your truth, but also say no to shit you don't want to do, right? When you learn all of those tools, all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where you have got vast amounts of time at your disposal and time starts to really work for you. So let me break it down for you. I'll say more about this at the end, but all of what I'm going to talk about today is broken down step by step in trainings inside my Time Alchemy membership. Now, the Time Alchemy membership is normally £222 a month. And for a limited time, I have reduced the price of that by 50% to £111 a month. You'll see links if it feels aligned. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I need some of this in my life, you'll find links in the show notes. But really what I want to do with this episode is to walk you through the steps so that whether or not you're in a position or you actually feel like you would like to come into the membership, you understand the steps required and the process, right? Because so often when people talk about time management or managing our time, you get this like generic throw out statement of like, well, you just need better boundaries. You need to put better boundaries in place. Now, whilst technically this might be true, there's generally a very good reason why people don't and can't put the boundaries in place. And simply shaming them and telling them over and over again that they just need to put boundaries in place isn't going to make the blindest bit of difference. So let's got no notes, by the way. Whatever comes through is what you're getting. Let's walk through the actual steps required for you to be able to improve your relationship with time. And this is the honest actual steps required, right? Rather than like, just learn these time management tools and put some boundaries in place and everything will be amazing. No. So step one, understand what is going on in your system that has created your current relationship with time. Okay. So if you are constantly busy, there's constantly stuff going on, you don't quite understand it, but you seem to be involved in like, so parents, after school club, PTA things, like friends on the weekends, at work, you always seem to be the person that's taken on more and more responsibility and all of these things outside of your job description. And you can't quite understand, like, how are you the person that seems to have all of this stuff coming at you all of the time? right? Step one is let's get curious and figure out the answer to that question. Now, lots of things go into this. There's two that I want to touch upon today. One is your rule book for life. This might be your conscious rules or your unconscious rules, but most of us get handed down a lovely set of rules from our parents or our primary caregivers or at school about how we are supposed to be, how we're meant to function in the world, and what it means to be successful. And often those rules look like work hard. If you're going to be successful, you need to work hard. You need to put in as much effort as possible. You need to give 100%. You need to say yes to everything. You need to make your job your number one priority. We also get rules around our worthiness and what is required of us in order to be valuable and lovable, right? Now, the truth is, before I say anything else, you are innately valuable and lovable, but most people don't get that unconditional love. They learn, which then becomes part of their rule book. Okay, well, in order to be loved, in order to get attention in this house, in order for us to think that you're good enough, you need to be working hard, getting really good grades, pushing yourself, following this trajectory of these steps of success. Okay. And if you tick all of that, then and only then will you be deserving of the right to exist. And so we spend all of our lives not even consciously doing it, but desperately seeking to prove our worth, earn our right to exist. And this then creeps into how we manage our time because we overgive, we people please. The perfectionism comes in. So we spend way, 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 way longer on stuff than we really need to because we are underneath trying to keep ourselves safe by complying with this rule book. So step one is getting really flipping clear on, well, what is my rule book? What are the conscious and subconscious rules that I have taken on that are driving the car behind the scenes that I am not currently aware of, right? So that is step one. And then obviously you get to look at your rules and be like, okay, well, which of these rules are outdated? Which of these rules do I not like? Which of these rules aren't even mine? And this is the kind of the paradigm shifting work of like, okay, well, this is the paradigm that I've been operating in. Success requires hard work and hustle and overgiving. And if I'm going to be valuable in the world, I need to give all of myself all of the time, have to say yes to everything. Goodness me, could never disappoint somebody else, could never create a conflict, could never say no. And then we wonder why we have no time, right? So it's like, that's the paradigm that I was in. How do I shift to the new paradigm? What do I want that to look like? But step one, you've got to get super clear on like, what's the current rule situation that you're looking at? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is also understanding, and it's deeply related to this, but what is your predominant attachment style? And again, how does that show up? So very, very few of us, I mean, the literature will try and tell you that the majority of people have a secure attachment style. I'm sorry. No. But the majority of us have an avoidant attachment style. So we avoid doing things. We have an anxious attachment style. So we're a bit more like needy, needy, needy. Or if you're really lucky, and most of my clients and myself fall into this category, although my nervous system is becoming like my attachment style is becoming more secure. It's this heady mix between the two. So like a disorganized attachment style of being like avoidant half of the time and anxious half of the time. So like in the context of a relationship, it's like, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And then they come too close and it's like, oh, that's too close. I'm suffocated. Like, get away from me. Right. But we do it in our work and how we manage our time. Because if we are anxious, then we're constantly going to be like seeking approval from other people. And do they think we're good? Do they think I'm good enough? And am I doing enough? So let me do more. Let me do more. Let me do more. And if we're avoidant, then you probably procrastinate and you don't get stuff done and you avoid doing things. And then you end up with this absolutely huge to-do list that's completely overwhelming. You don't do any of it, right? So getting really clear on your attachment style and how that applies to work, also really important. Step 2. And you can see how like these foundational points just don't normally get covered when we're thinking about managing our time. So you've got your attachment style that you're not aware of running around. You've got your unconscious rule book that you're not aware of running around. And then someone comes along and says, apply these time management steps and everything will be fine. And you've got all of these parts of you like, oh, hell no. Right? So we have to look at these parts first. And then the next part of the piece, or next piece of the puzzle, is your nervous system, right? Our nervous system's primary function is to keep us safe and alive. And that means that life situations, we react, we adapt to, we create these patterns of behavior that allow us to feel safe in a world that at times, or possibly all the time at the moment, doesn't feel that safe. Okay, so for example, if as a kid you get ridiculed for being too stupid, you get told you're never going to make anything of yourself, then you are probably going to develop, it can go two ways actually. Way one, you just give up and don't bother. Those people don't generally listen to my podcast or come and work with me. My people are normally way two, which is they're like, oh my goodness, like I'm a useless piece of shit. They might not be consciously aware of this. I'm unlovable. In order to be worthy and lovable, I need to be perfect and do all of these things. So then this overworking, overgiving, perfectionism, people pleasing comes in. As the body's response to feeling not good enough, and that feeling of not good enough actually feeling like an existential threat to the nervous system. Right. So again, people just like bandy around. Perfectionism is a trauma response, but without really explaining it. But this is the crux of what this stuff is, right? We have adapted ourselves, changed our patterns of behavior in order to feel safe, which is incredible, right? It's incredible. It's incredible that we push ourselves and we seek to do all of these things. But then it gets to a point where it's like, yeah, but this is draining the life out of me. Like, I'm not being my authentic self. I'm overgiving. I've got no time. It's too much. So, nervous system work, next step. And so then once we've worked through these three things, so we're clear on our rule book, we get clear on our attachment style, we've got some tools to like move towards a more secure attachment style, because the attachment styles show up in everything, right? So yes, they show up predominantly, or we think about them predominantly in relationships, but they also show up in work. Then it's like, okay, how do I create an environment in my body where my nervous system isn't reacting, so where it does feel safe for me to say no and push back and to put in boundaries and to take time for myself and recognize that I actually deserve rest. You know, how many of you got that message that in order to be valuable, you need to be productive, and you need to be productive all of the time, right? So it's like all of this stuff to be worked through. And then at this point, it's like, okay, now I'm ready to look at some time management tools. So how do I tune into what I want to prioritize on a day-to-day basis, an hour-to-hour basis, a weekly basis, like however you want to do it? Like inside Time Alchemy, we tend to focus on it for the week because there's a live call every single week where I help people work through whatever they need. But, you know, choose your own adventure. So what is it that I need to focus on? Like, what is it that I need? What is it that I want to create? And what is it that I need to focus on in order to do this? And then we can start diving into the time management tools, okay? So like the top level time management tool will be things like learning how to prioritize your to-do list and look at your to-do list. And are there things on there that you need to do? What can you delay? What can you delegate? What can you ditch? I call that the 4Ds. Do, ditch, delay, delegate, okay? And that can really, really help. When your nervous system is more on board and your body is more on board, there's also tools and things that you can start to go into of like, well, if I tune into my body rather than just intellectually what my mind's telling me I need to do, or what do I need? How am I feeling? Oh, I'm really tired. I need to shuffle some stuff around. Or, oh, my body's really tight. Like I need to prioritize going for a massage. Like whatever it is, you can come in then at that next layer. Um, and then once you start to use the like, and we're going to call them like the top level tools, and once your nervous system is feeling more safe and your body is feeling more expansive, and you've sort of worked through some of your historic rules and your attachment styles and all of the rest of it, what tends to happen then is that this reconnection back to ourselves and our bodies opens us up to being curious about other things as well, right? And so this is where stuff like, oh, I'm going to start paying attention to my dreams. Like, are there messages coming through in my dreams that are going to give me an indication of the work that I need to do, what I need to be focusing on? The dream is an incredibly powerful tool that for many reasons has been kind of pushed away from us. And so we don't really necessarily recognize it for the magic that it is. But so going into the dream, super, super powerful. And then and then again, right? So you can see it all builds, it all builds, it all builds. We can't, and you join, like all of this stuff is in time alchemy, and you kind of meet it where you are. But the point is that, like, as you evolve, the next level is there waiting for you to hold you in your evolution. So then you might also want to look at things like managing your energy and your time and choosing what you do in line with the season. So whether it's the internal season that you are in, the season outside, ladies, managing your time and your activities in line with your menstrual cycle, if you are at that stage in your life. And then also looking at things like your personal natural rhythm. So when is your energy better in the day? When is your energy less good in the day? How do you work well? Like, how can you manage your time around that? Then you can add the next layer in of things like traditional Chinese medicine practices. If you look at the traditional Chinese medicine clock, every 2 hour segment of the 12 hours of the day, the 24 hours, I do know there's 24 hours in a day. The 24 hours in a day is associated with an organ of the body. And the organ of the body is also associated with certain functions in the body. It's also associated with certain emotions. So again, we can start to tailor, okay, well, how do I navigate my day in line with that, if that's somewhere that you feel called to? So for example, midday is the heart space. So it's a great time to connect into love. It's a great time to rest. It's a great time to just be. And so you can start to layer on all of these different tools that then allow you to really start to make time your own and use time to your benefit. And then once you're in that space, and again, the nervous system's continuing to feel more safe, your attachment style is becoming more secure, you're getting more clear on your rule book, you're working through more and more of those rules. You then are starting to feel more connected to life itself. Maybe you're feeling a little bit more spiritual. You might start to bring in some things around astrology and your astrology, or different methodologies of how you personally can best use your time. There's some incredible tools out there. I like the spirituality version of Myers-Briggs. So you might look at your human design, you might look at your gene keys. And then the next stage is, okay, right, I've worked through this stuff. I'm managing my time. I'm able to connect into myself and recognize what do I need to prioritize. I'm able to get stuff done. I'm allowing myself to rest. I'm noticing I'm shifting the paradigm. I'm noticing actually when I don't push and I don't hustle and I rest and I take care of myself, time starts to take care of me. I have more time. I'm getting more done. I actually have energy for my life. Like my life lights me up. This is incredible. And then there might also be an element of, okay, well, so now how can I really start to bend time and use time? And this is where quantum physics comes in. So how do I collapse timelines? Now, and there's loads and loads of stuff. People out there all the time are like, quantum jumping, collapse timelines. But what does that actually look like specifically, right? How do we actually use the laws of quantum physics for manifestation? Now, you've got to do the first bit first, right? Your nervous system's got to be working for you. Your body's got to feel safe. Because in order to start using quantum physics for manifestation, it's actually really bloody simple, right? If all timelines, all possibilities, all eventualities exist now in the quantum field, the way that you jump timelines and quantum leap and do all of these different pieces is to get super clear on that timeline. So on the timeline where insert X result that you want, what am I doing? How am I feeling? What am I wearing? How am I spending my time? How am I taking care of myself? Like, what does that version of me feel like, look like, act like? Okay. And then the way that you create it, not magic at all, is to just start being that person right now. That's how you do it, right? Now, we can talk about it from the perspective of you align your frequency to that frequency, and then you become an energetic match for that, like that version of you. Yes, all of that is true. But like the very tangible, simple, straightforward thing is the version of you that exists already, that has everything that you want, what are they doing? Go and do that, right? But you can't do that all the time. Your nervous system is over here being like, that is a threat to my life. I can't do that. I can't go into the office and say no. I can't push back. I can't insert all of your stuff. Okay. And so this is why we have to start with, and you might have done this work already, but this is why the process has to be, what is my rule book? What is currently driving the car for me? Where's my nervous system at? What's my attachment style doing? What do I actually want to get from my life? So we have to build all of this safety up in the system so that when it gets to, okay, this version of me over here, let's jump this timeline, like let me shift to my highest timeline over here. Like it becomes very simple and straightforward. I think a lot of the time we see this stuff online about, oh, manifestation and manifest to your highest timeline. Yeah, no, like you just try and do that straight away. It's spiritual bypassing. It's absolute fucking nonsense and it's just not going to happen. And so this is the process. And so inside Time Alchemy, all of this stuff is available to you, right? Because it meets you where you are at. So if you're right at the starting point, you would start with looking at your rule book. For me, one of the greatest and most important things that we can ever do is be constantly working on and with our bodies and our nervous systems. And so what I do every single Monday, if it's a public holiday, it might get pre-recorded, but there's still one. Every single Monday, there is a brand new training around the nervous system. They vary in length of time, like the shortest ones are probably about 15 minutes, the longest ones are about half an hour. But I take you through an exercise or some stuff to think about or a somatic-based practice so that over time, we are naturally creating the safety in your body that you need to make the shifts. And so every single week, a new training is added. Now, because of the joys of Facebook, so it's done live in the Facebook group, so I can interact with you. But then that training is also added to the portal where all of the other trainings are. So if you're anti-Facebook, you don't miss out. But also because Facebook now delete live videos after 30 days, they're all in there. So if you joined the Time Alchemy membership now, you would get over a year of those weekly trainings that you could just dip into and work through. they are titled. So like, you know, you'd have the date and then what it was that I was covering. So you could dip in there. And that's such a key fundamental mental part of it for me. Like you can't mindset yourself way through this stuff, right? You can't just think your way through it. You've got to bring the body in. And so that is why, on top of everything, and I mean, there's also tons and tons of nervous system trainings in that portal. There's a 2-hour masterclass on everything you will ever need to know on burnout and overwhelm. There's an hour class with like intro to the body, everything that you need, like beginners work, really somatic working with the body. There's a class in there on how to take care of yourself. Like there's so much stuff in the portal. And then also don't let it overwhelm you, right? Because it's just, you just use it as and when you need to. But really that live element is so, so important. And the reason also why the live element is so important is because in real time, my nervous system is interacting with your nervous system. And that creates co-regulation, it creates attunement, and it actually is more beneficial for your body to let it settle, even though all I'm doing is sitting on a Facebook Live and delivering it. So Time Alchemy includes the portal of materials, it includes the weekly reset. Now that's done live on a Monday, but I mean, it gets recorded, you can watch it back whenever. But where the real magic of this program comes in is that every single week, unless I'm on holiday, so there's probably 2 a year that I don't do, just to be really honest, every single week on a Tuesday, we meet for 45 minutes where I just support you with whatever you need. So on a like I'm following the rules week, we get clear on what is your priority for the week, what is it that you want to focus on. We have some quiet time in the session that allows you to take those first steps, and then I support around anything that's come up that feels hard. Maybe there's a conversation that you want to have that you want to work through, or a challenge that you're having. Other weeks, if people turn up and actually they're just having a really, really hard week, it just turns into a coaching call. So I am really just here to support you where you are at on that call. And they're every single week, a 45-minute space just for you. And then the last thing that is included is private Facebook community, because it's kind of nice to be in a space with other people when you're doing this work who get it. And also you can ask questions in there of me or of the group, so that you aren't necessarily having to wait a week for your next bit of support. So the Time Alchemy membership is completely flexible. It's a month-by-month membership. You join, you stay as long as feels good, and then you can leave, right? And then you can come back. And the investment for this is normally £222 a month, which, to be honest, is an absolute steal, with a live call every single week and a live nervous system training every single week, and then everything that's in the portal and the Facebook group. As I said at the start, I am deeply committed to getting this stuff into the hands of as many people as possible. And so for a limited time only, I have discounted the price of that membership by 50% to £111 a month. So you will find a link that you can sign up in the show notes. And what I will say is, if you join at the £111 a month price now, that price, it's not like the first month is 111 and then it goes up. Your membership will stay at that price for as long as you stay in the membership. Now, if you go and leave and just go and come back and go and come back and go and come back, I'm not guaranteeing that you'll always be able to do it at £111, okay? Because you'll be able to, when you rejoin, you'll be rejoining at whatever the investment is. But if you join while it's £111 a month, you will be able to, as long as you want to stay, you'll be able to do it at that lower price. So if it feels aligned, if it's calling to you, if this is of interest to you, check out the show notes, sign up. Any questions, come and let me know. You can send me an email, you can DM me on social media. Like, if there's anything that you would like to know about this, come and let me know. I have deeply, deeply and truly designed this membership to be an all-encompassing, relatively accessible space. I appreciate not everyone will be able to afford £111 a month, but it's a low-cost space for what you get, okay? because I want to make a difference. I want you to have these tools. I don't want you to just think or be gaslighting yourself because you haven't got better boundaries, right? I want you to deeply understand and be able to work through and be supported to work through actual phases that get you to the result of jumping timelines and quantum jumping and creating exactly what you want with the actual time you have. This is the process. So what I've walked you through today is the process. If you would like to come and properly work through the process with me, join Time Alchemy. Can't wait to see you inside, and I will see you on the next episode. Lots of love.